Good afternoon, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon After Hours show with Ryan Mastro from OptionsRobot. Before we get started, let's take a look at the shared disclaimer. Please be aware that neither Market Chameleon, Ryan, or myself are registered investment advisors or broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This webinar, as all our webinars and shows, are for informational purposes only. With that, one last look at the disclaimer, and let's welcome Ryan to the stage. How you doing, Ryan? I think you have your mute on, Ryan.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you in any way. How are you?
Good. So what are we looking at today?
So I guess let's just take a quick look at the markets and see what's going on. So just to give you an idea of a couple of the charts, and I'm always a guy that comes back to the Qs first. We had a big gap up this morning, and it feels like we did nothing the rest of the day. It was kind of one of those days you just kind of like, all right, do something, right? It was all the traders we were talking to was like just nothing really moving. We had some individual things that were going. Let's just kind of quick look at a couple of other spiders. Really did the exact same thing. Gapped up, maybe a little bit higher high. IWM, I think, probably did the best out of the group, where it gapped up, made a strong push. I think that was more breath coming into the market. And then your diamonds did okay, right? Similar to IWM. So a little bit more of the breath out of that. Now, we had some quantum names that came to play. They had some good moves, like the QUBT, IONQ looked pretty good. Like a Rigetti, RGTI, that looked pretty good. Your one I thought was the best was QBTS. That one really took out highs. Let me zoom out a little bit, show you. Took out highs, started to climb this wall of worry over here. So this is a nice move getting back above the 50-day. So we may look at that in a couple of minutes. We'll look a little bit more in depth on some of those. In terms of the chips, I would say the chips started, I'll just kind of summarize that by looking at your SMH, did the same thing the Qs did. They gapped up, sold into a little bit. I really thought we'd have a nice push. MU made a really, really big gap up. They sold into it really, really hard, but they managed to work it all the way back up by the end of the day and bring this thing. So that was that's a good sign that maybe they're going to try to continue to gap it up tomorrow. And AMAT didn't do too much here. It basically kind of sat in there. There's plenty of names in this space, I think, that are poised. AVGO had a little bit of that give back. A Taiwan semi remained strong for the day, gapped up, held the 50-day. So I thought that was a pretty good looking chart as well. So the chips would be a spot that I would be interested going forward. We're going to have this, I guess, the next couple of weeks here. Between this week, it's obviously half day on Wednesday. Christmas is off, full day on Wednesday, and the same thing next week, where again people are going to be kind of out of the loop here. Not as many traders, maybe the volume's a little bit lighter, so they may be able to push this around a little bit more. Maybe get the markup for the end of the year, right? Basically that Christmas rally. See if we can get that going for the markups. Looks pretty interesting when you look back at something like the SPY. We're not that far from the all-time highs, right? So we're doing pretty well. And I have no doubt that if the institutions want to push it this way with a little more liquidity, they'll be able to get there really easily. So I'm expecting them to kind of push this thing all the way into the year end and have this thing feeling pretty good by the end of the year. Now, again, new year brings a whole new light in terms of what's going to go on. Now, the one thing I would highlight is the volatility. Now, we can do that a couple different ways. We can do, let's see, I'm not sure if I can do the straight VIX. No, this system has the VIX. I can trade it, but I can't do, let's see, these are all short-term. Let's see, UVXI, that's a 2X now. I'll skip over that one, but maybe we go back over here, going to you guys. So I believe the VIX closed at like a 1.5-year low. And this was one where I think it's probably not a bad idea to start to look at that down at 1375 in terms of where we're trading, and that's pretty awesome. So, excuse me, I think at this point you're probably going to want to start to be a buyer. Give yourself a little bit of time, as just a kind of insurance policy against your portfolios, because now's the cheapest time you can buy insurance, right? So I'd probably looking at February. February captures the end of the big weighted names, they're all going to be end of January. So I think this is a good time to be, February, probably into March, in terms of, just buying some upside calls, maybe some call spreads that would help you kind of offset what's going on in the market there. So let's just come back and look at some of the unusual volume, see if we can find a couple positions or two that, and there's that QBTS. I think that's awesome. Again, I think that is one where we will probably want to keep an eye on that. Oops, that's not what I want to do. Let's do highlight and come back over here. If we wanted to kind of move into a big name like that, maybe this is already overbought. So you may want to do something like a QBTS, or, oops, if I could type it in, QBTS, right? Oh, sorry, wrong. QUBT is another one. That's a little bit of a laggard. You can see that's still down there, or an IONQ. I like the IONQ today. I think this could be a good breakout. So I probably look at this one. We used, I believe we just made a slightly higher high. This high here was 55.66. This high here was 55.55. So right there is probably going to be my level. So again, what this would look like, something like that, you put that dotted line in there, like, okay, that level 55.56, let's do a entry bot for that one. So for something like this, the options aren't that bad. I'd probably give myself a little bit of time and use, I'm going to go a little bit beyond that 55.66. I'm going to say something like, let's do 86. So they want to pop it through, test it around a little bit, they can. I'm going to add an option. I'm going to give myself some time on this one. I'm going to go out to like probably January, and I'd probably buy the 56s. I'll do that quick. Now, again, this is just an entry bot. So all this is going to do is get me into the position. Then once I do that, I can then create basically a strategy to get me out. Now, for something like this, again, the ATR is not that big. So I'm going to use something like 2 rolls and an exit, basically having a little bit of my my stops in here as well. So this will give me, if the stock goes up by $2, then I would get out of that. If my option loses more than 30%, I would get out of that way. So that's going to basically roll me up multiple times and get me out of the trade. I think that has a good potential to run into the end of the year. And again, you could look at other names like Rigetti, or there's a couple others that are in there that you could basically latch onto. I was surprised you didn't get a little run out of maybe like an IBM, right? Known for quantum with its Watson. Doesn't really get lumped in as much as some of these other kind of startups, just because it's such a larger company. We did have some run out of like an MDB today. That made a little bit of a pop. I saw another one I thought was interesting was Snow. That's starting to make a turn in terms of the big names there. So let's come back over to Market Chameleon and look down through our unusual, see if there's anything else that jumps out that we want to take a look at. Nike had the big drop. I'm not really interested in jumping or catching that knife at the moment. Carvana I thought was interesting. So just to look at that one real quick on the chart. If you come over and let's see, just do chart real quick. Now, this is one that really gave way. I've talked about this a couple times. This could be one where you want to set up something like a cheap downside play. How do you do cheap when the stock is trading $400? And again, what are some strategies? One, to reduce your exposure would be like a put vertical. So I buy a closer to the at the monies and I sell something out of the monies. I could do a put condor where I lean with a put vertical and then sell a put vertical against. I could do a put butterfly. So let's just look at just mimicking one of those. Let's do a simulate real quick and do a Carvana. Come on. Let's do a put butterfly. Let's do butterfly. Where's my butterflies? There's a butterfly. Long put butterfly. Okay, so let's say stocks trading down in, let's do like maybe a 430, do something wide. So we could do something like a 405. That's going to give me what, $25. So I'd have to go down to what, 380. So that gives me a, whoops, I wanted this to, oh, do it the wrong way. Sorry. So this is my long put and I got to do my 430s, 405, I think I said. So there's a nice wide butterfly. Right now trading 405. Maybe that's a little too expensive for you, so you could tighten it up. Maybe we do a 410, 390. That's trading 291, something like that. So that's not too bad for the ability to make $20 and, well, $20 total, but you have your premium in there. So you'd be, let's call it $3. You only make a potential of 17. So for each one lot you did, it'd be roughly $1,700. So that one would be interesting. And I would say for something like that, I would use an entry bot on that to work your way on the downside. But I'm not going to do that right now. It's just, again, not too many people are trading butterflies. But that one would be one I would keep on the radar. Maybe one of you guys want to jump into something like that as well. Let's come back over to, let's see, I want to come back to unusual, work down that list real quick. Lamb, I think, is interesting with the chips moving up. LUNR, the intuitive machines, that had a pretty good run. That is considered bullish here for sentiment. So let's just look at that here real quick. I'm going to go right to, let's do the chart on that, then go to the option chains. So charts on that, this was just on fire. There's a couple names in here you could look at between Lunar, RKLB, right? Even ASTS, right? They all have had pretty good runs. I think the ASTS basically has more to go. It's more of an expensive stock. So RKLB is only a $77 stop, and then Lunar is actually pretty cheap comparatively. It's only $16, right? So Lunar, I think, could really, really get rocking and rolling here. So something like that, I'm going to go straight call. Entry bot, let's do that one here real quick. And let's see, so greater than, and we're trading around 16. So I'm going to say something like $17, not 1,700, but $17. And we'll add an option. I'm going to trade the 17s, and I'm going to give myself a little time. I think this has got one. We want to go out to something like a January. So January 16s, we'll do that. We'll do quick and create. So that gets me into Lunar on the upside. And for something like that, I'd probably do something similar in here that we did on the other ones where we had, again, all it does is my quick apply. So again, I just created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 orders in one click, right? So my template, how I want to set it up, you can create your own at any time, so, but now what I'll do is I'll create that. That's basically going to roll me up, and I'm going to share that. So anybody that wants to come grab this, I can share that with you guys, and you guys can have that available. I'll make the other one available as well. So, Will, before we kind of get to the end, I do want to make a special offer to you guys. I know we've gotten a couple of the Chameleon community on board, but I want to make a better offer, right? And I think the one thing that may be holding you back is the time frame. 2 weeks may not be enough. I know we're not connected to Interactive Brokers. That seems to be a big. Most of your crowd is Interactive Broker fans. But anybody, I have Schwab, I have Tradier, I have Alpaca's coming on board. We're going to be trying to get into the Interactive Brokers here in the next couple of weeks. It's going to take a little time, but for those that want to come on and try us out, I'm going to give 2 free months of access away. That's going to be with a coupon code of START26MC. So it's START, START 2026 MC. So Market Chameleon. So again, if you guys want to come on board, check it out for the new year, get something going that you want to really kind of change your mindset and really kind of figure out how to use something like this. You can use again, for free. There's no issue here at all. You can use the paper trading account, kind of dance around with that a little bit. If you want to connect to the pro, you can. That's still free access. The only charge that you're going to have is if you start to use the bots and you get in past, I think it's each month you get $10 of credits for access. But if you get beyond that, there's going to be a bot credit fee for you. So get really into that. So again, I've kept the cost down as much as you can to allow you to get into here for 2 months free. So hopefully that is something that we really help some of you guys out with.
So Ryan, just confirming, the code is START, START 2026 2026 MC.
Yep.
And I can share that because we have a bunch of people who've been on and off at various times who always are on the morning show. I can share that code.
Yep. Yeah, feel free. Yeah, I mean, look, this is for you guys. I'm trying to help all these guys out in terms of getting to the next level. I mean, I'm looking to get more people onto the platform. We have I have a goal for the next 3 months of getting 1,000 people on. And, that would, again, I want more people on to kind of show the power of this. My end goal is the better off I can get and the more power I have with the brokers, the cheaper I can make it for access to the brokers. So my goal is to get enough people on that brings my costs down for the brokers, and the brokers then say, yeah, we'll bring and help cover the cost. So what it ends up doing is it makes it a wash for people, right? So the brokers are willing to put a little money behind us, then it reduces the cost for everybody. So that's going to be a big help for everyone.
All right, perfect. So I'll mention that tomorrow morning as well.
Yeah. So we got any questions coming in?
Yeah, we did have some questions from Jim. The first one was about open interest. Let me go to it. He asked, does Ryan have any minimum open interest when he trades an option?
I don't have a hard and fast rule. I mean, as a trader, you got to get a little nervous when there isn't much open interest on a strike. So, that's something I would shy away from typically. It's just a natural inclination to do that. But the one thing I would probably look at is what are the volume and the open interest around that strike. So if I have stuff above and below, if you're really kind of focused on one specific strike and there's no open, I don't like being very large in that sense where I'm bigger than the market. So typically I would shy, if I'm going to go in with like a 50 lot, no, I would probably shy away from being on a strike that doesn't have any open interest. But something that is around it, I'd probably go either a little further in the money or a little further out of the money to be on a strike that has, say, a 500 lot or something along with it, that I'm participating in that crowd. Because you don't want to be the only one there, because as a former market maker and specialist, the last thing you want to do is kind of be the only person there that market maker can just kind of continue to mark that thing up against you.
All right. The next question was some stocks. Can we go over some stocks?
Sure.
First one is Disney, DIS.
So Disney is Disney's been doing okay, right? I think for the most part they had earnings, they sold off a little bit, and they've been trying to fight this upper kind of, I mean, I guess technically you could call it almost a pennant, right? Where they have this post formation and the consolidation here. So I like this. I'm not a big fan of it from a company wise. I think they've made a lot of missteps in terms of their movies and some of the other stuff they've gone down that path with, but I think they need to kind of get out of their own way and kind of let this thing go. Now, you've been in consolidation, so I'd probably use something like Friday's high. That high there is hard for me to see with that background. So high on that day was 113.48. So I'd probably wait the dollar for me to get in, because you still have some of the gap fill here, and it still could look very interesting on the pattern, right? But you got a lot of resistance over here, not really that far to go. There may be some better choices, but if you're in Disney, I have no problem with staying in Disney. I just don't know I'd really want to jump into it right away. I like getting it back above that red line, which is 100-day, and getting it back above the high there, which is that 113.48. Any other questions, Will?
Yeah, we had another one was BMY.
Bristol Myers. Now, I haven't looked at Bristol Myers today, so it looks good, right? So let's zoom out, put a little context behind this, and you can kind of see we've been in a really good run here for the last couple of weeks. Climbing the similar type of position, right? You want to clear this junk right in here. That high there is 54.86. Next couple of levels, I'd probably look at, you got a little bit of resistance kind of right in there. So that is kind of right about, there's that high right in there. Then as you kind of walk your way up, maybe a little bit, maybe use that high and these lows over in here, right? So you got a good resistance area in here. You got some support, you got some resistance. So that level's 50, so 55.16, which is pretty tight to where your high is, 57.09. Then you have the gap fill after that. That's about just under 58. Then your bigger resistance is going to come up around 59.35 on these lows. So it's going to have to break through that area to really kind of give you the bigger pop that you're looking for. But I mean, this thing's been beaten down. You look at it over time, you got plenty of room to run on the upside if they can really get the space going. But got to do a little work to kind of get there.
All right. The next one was QBTS.
Yeah, so that's the one we talked about earlier in terms of the big run, right? So this is one that we started off with in that that quantum space, and that's why we suggested the IONQ as kind of laggard runner that maybe you'll catch up. So the IONQ. Now, if you want to jump on the QBTS, it's just out in front, ready to go. It's a $33 stock. IONQ. Oh yeah, so IONQ hasn't really broken out yet, so it still gives you a little bit more of a trigger, a little higher price stock, right? Not too bad. So that could be one you want to play. Or the QUBT is a little bit of a laggard there, a little bit more, and then the Rigetti RGTI in that space, a little bit more of a laggard. So definitely the QBTS is out in front of it and could be on the launch pad here for a continuation. I like a lot of these names as they're trying to go. There's Rocket Labs. It's just been absolutely on fire with that LUNR, right? So they both have been on fire with the talk from Trump today.
And then maybe look at GLD, gold, and silver SLV.
So yeah, I'm still long both of these. So gold and silver. Gold had a big gap up today. Silver, SLV. I've been riding this wave. I think this is going to continue to go. Silver's far outperforming what's going on with gold right now. If you compare like highs from like here. So clearly we're off to the races here. So silver is a laggard to the futures, right? They're trying to kind of keep it somewhat down. But silver, I mean, I would definitely be watching the miners in here. Like HLCDE is a little bit of a laggard. You have AG has been doing very well. Again, maybe not as strong as silver in itself. So what I think is going to happen here personally is we're getting to a point where there's going to be a failure to deliver. Now, there's a couple different things why that could happen. Not going to be probably this week or next week, but I think in the new year, what's going to happen is China is going to stop pushing or stop allowing silver to leave the country. So that's one they've already talked about. Shortly thereafter, or maybe even before that, the U.S. is going to probably get involved and say, we're not going to allow exports either, because what's going to happen is you're going to have, and hopefully someone points this out to the administration, because one of these exchanges, either London or the COMEX, is going to survive. The U.S. is going to make every effort in the world to save the COMEX, right? They don't want to be, restricted in that sense. So they're going to let London fail. That fails, then clearly it's going to be, us and China basically controlling silver. Silver, then it's a matter of, who are we allowing to import, export in terms of trying to bring things in? Do we have to do more negotiations with them for silver as a strategic metal? Now, Trump's already tried to play that and start to work through those relationships because he sees this going on. So that to me is what's going to happen. Now, once we get to failure to deliver, what we're going to see is companies strategically come in and partner with some of these smaller mines that have production. And the reason they're going to do that is because they can't get their hands on it. They can't get their hands on it in the open market in any way, so they have to go privately. So these smaller companies are going to start to get investments, and that's going to increase everything, right? So if they start giving away or making deals for portions of their production and locking that in, then that takes away from the global production numbers. So that's going to make less supply, increase demand even more, and become an even bigger driver to the upside. So I would start to look at some of the small miners. There's like EXK, Endeavor. There's a couple other smaller miners. Again, I'm happy to kind of walk through several of those, but I think these are the ones that you kind of want to keep an eye. Like a PAAS is not a small one, but it's $54. The Hecla is cheap, but it's not like really small on the basis. Like you can get some that are dollar penny stocks that produce a good amount, not as big as some of these other big ones, but you could say, like, hey, is there going to be, again, I think you're going to have some of these big guys because their margins have expanded so much that they will start to buy some of the smaller miners. So I think that's something that we want to keep an eye on as well. So that would be a space I would look, not just in owning physical, the PSLV, the Hecla, or even just the SLV. I tend to shy away from the SLV and play some of these other names, though.
Jim did mention SLVR and I think PAAS, which is a miner, I think.
PAS is Pan American Silver, yeah, and I don't know the SLVR. Oh, Sprott Silver, yeah, physical. So the PSLV is one. that does that is the same thing. So it's a silver trust. Does basically the same thing. It's a little bit cheaper, but the CLVR is one that you can, with the Sprott. It's the same mindset. So I like the miners and the physical as well. It's probably not a bad play to have that combo. The miners gives you that kicker of maybe some of these things having some speculation in them, and that they start to go, because they're still behind where the price of silver is. So I think there's plenty of room for those to run.
I guess the last thing maybe is a question. Last week, it was announced by the NASDAQ that they had applied to list their equities on a 24/7 basically cycle.
Let's go.
What do you think happens with the options? Is that something the options exchanges
Options won't go for at least 3 to 6 months after that. And I think the only way they're going to be able to do options is they're probably going to have maybe a longer time frame, but I don't think it will ever go the full 24 hours. I think what they're saying is 23 hours for stocks. They have an hour for settlement. And there's still obviously settlement issues today with shorts and the whole 9 yards. So it's going to make it even more complicated. But for options, there's a whole clearing process, and I think that has to be worked through. But I would love to see it. That just opens up the world for us. And for something like, and for your guys, that if you have any positions, think about it this way. I know everyone wants to sleep, but you can let a bot do the management for you. I can sell stock against my positions. I can, if I do get a big run up, you can manage the position that way, basically allowing the bots to do all the work for you. So even better for us. It's something we've been talking about for a while. I used to be a big gamma trader on the floor, where short gamma and long gamma. Love the gamma. The long gamma is really easy when it's working, sucks when it doesn't. But for positions where, let's say you have a couple of contracts, if you get those big movements in the overnight, right, you can actually sell and buy stock against it as a gamma flip. So you get a big move up or a big move down, right? You can let the bots do the work for you. Just keep buying and selling against it, basically being a delta neutral trader. Very exciting stuff.
It'd be great news, and if they allowed people overseas to trade in our markets like they do crypto, it would be even more exciting. But we'll see.
They do to some extent. I think it's only certain locations abroad that they allow it, because there is access, right? They do have, there's, depending on the country, that you do have access to it, but I don't think anywhere as near as what we would like them to be open with, because it would create a flurry of activity.
Yeah, it really would. Well, Ryan, this was another great show. Thanks for bringing this to the Chameleon community. And everyone, remember, Ryan gave a very friendly offer to the Chameleon community, 2 months free, and that is Start 2026 MC. Start 2026 MC.
Start the new year off right.
We did have one last, someone's mentioned Bitcoin. That's something we don't have in our system. I don't think you have Bitcoin in OptionsRobot, do you?
So what I use for Bitcoin, we use like the IBIT. So it's just it's an ETF as a proxy. So again, it's just been struggling here. We really need to kind of get this thing back up off the ground. You can see all those blue lines in here, just downtrends. Yes, we've been kind of consolidating. We did make a slightly higher low here. That's great. But we've just been under pressure across the board here. So we really need to see a little bit more of a pop, back up above, let's say 52 on the IBIT, maybe through the highs there. Look, it's under pressure, point blank. So hopefully if we get some of this legislation passed, and then basically into the new year, that starts us off right, we can start to get a nice little bounce here.
Perfect. Well, Ryan, thanks again. We will
welcome.
see you next Monday. You have a great holiday. Enjoy Christmas if that's something you do. Hanukkah if it's something you do. Everyone have a great holiday. And we'll see you next Monday, Ryan. Thanks.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining another Market Chameleon webinar series with OptionsRobot. Remember, you can get 2 months now. Ryan gave that attractive offer. Start 2026 MC. That's START, 2026 MC. And get 2 free months. Give it a try, everyone. Give it a try. Again, we'll have our morning show tomorrow with Dimitri, 9 a.m. Check out the Market Chameleon YouTube channel. Everyone have a great, safe evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.